Okay, students will continue. So these are all the labor laws in Malaysia, ya. Ni semua you have studied in HRM. Actually, this is just a recap. Okay, I hope you all remember what you studied in HRM. Topic 2, apa Malaysian legal background. Okay, legal issues, legal background. So laws that are providing for basic benefits are Employment Act, because this will provide minimum standards. These are all what we call mandatory benefit or compulsory benefit, or dia panggil apa ya, mandatory, compulsory, that the government make sure that companies operating in Malaysia will have to provide minimum standards according to this. They cannot provide lower standards than being specified under the Employment Act. And also the Wages Council now has been revoked and been replaced by the Minimum Wage Order 2012 and the Children and Young Persons Act. These are all only in the family business, these children are below 16, below 16 of age. Orang muda, young person is from 15 to 16. Okay, and then workers minimum standards of housing amenities for those companies that have like plantations or mines where their location is away from everything, away from a town and anything. They have to provide lodgings or housing, so they have to follow this act. And in terms of social security laws, there's Workmen's Compensation Act 1952, Employees Provident Fund Act, EPF, and Employee Social Security also. In terms of procedures, we have the procedures under IR would be bargaining, collective bargaining, negotiating, settling disputes, which is mandatory in Malaysia, and then settling grievances, handling, which is the guidelines are provided in the Code of Conduct for Industrial Harmony 1975, handling disciplines, handling redundancies, also in Code of Conduct, policy making, union recognition, tribunal hearings, calling strikes, referrals to conciliation. These are all procedures under IR, which we will look at under part 3, in the approach of this subject or this course. And the topics under IR would be the pay, hours, conditions of work, contract of employment, termination of employment, union membership, government approaches, picketing, strikes, governmental factors affecting IR. Okay. So and then now we'll look at the perspectives in IR. IR certain it depends on the country or the organization. Some organization maybe have a unitary perspective towards IR. So this view of IR is based on the concept that organization have a single common objective, that everyone works towards the objective with loyalty by accepting the authority structure of the organization. So all employees, because they are paid salaries, they would have to be loyal to the company. The company expect that from them. They cannot have a different objective or interest besides the interest and objective of the company. So in such organizations, conflict is not part of the system, and if any conflict does manifest itself, it's because the system is not working properly. Because the system is not wrong, the system is correct, but maybe poor leadership, breakdown in communication, or because the employees are resisting the approach are the reasons why the system is not working. Okay, so conflict is commonly seen as irrational and frictional. Because of this, in theory, there cannot be a conflict, and because of that, they will not entertain the existence of trade unions, because trade union will introduce a challenge to the organization as being the sole focus of loyalty. So resolution of conflict is by using usually coercion and not compromise. So usually memang they will be forced to follow whatever decisions is made by the organizations for them. Usually they will use unilateral decision making. Everything is managerial prerogative. Okay, so they will resist trade union because they see that it's not rational. because everybody must have the same objective, so there cannot be conflict. Another perspective, which is the opposite, is the pluralistic. This one assumes that all organization, if you learn in OB, organization is composed of individuals who coalesce into a variety of distinct sectional groups, so each with its own interests, objectives, and leadership. So organization is multi-structured and competitive in terms of groupings, leadership, authority, loyalty. They will also fight for budgets and resources, okay, because these are groups that are competing with each other. Which groups has the higher upper hand or the greatest power will get the higher greater resources and budgets. Okay, so the organization is therefore in a permanent state of dynamic tension, always in a dynamic tension, because there is also always this struggle, okay, to determine who have the greater power in that company. So this resulting from inherent conflict of interest between various sectional groups, and requires, because its organization is big, so there are many groups. So intergroup conflict are the most difficult to resolve. Okay, so it has to be managed through a variety of roles. Institutions, for instance, maybe collective bargaining, a grievance procedure, okay, and processes, and regulations, disciplinary, and then hence conflict is perceived as both rational and inevitable. Because it is rational and inevitable, therefore existence of trade union is accepted. Okay, so pluralistic perspective accept legitimacy of employees combining informal organizations, which are trade unions, and to express their interests, influence management decisions, and achieve their objectives. They also have this right. They have this legitimate right to exist, because they have their own interest to pursue, and they will try to fight to get the most power, or more relative power, in order to achieve their objective. And also, in conducting analysis, the theory towards IR, one of the theory or the model that is used in IR is the input-output model. Okay, so this model regards industrial relations primarily as a process of converting conflict into regulation. How do you manage conflict? How do you resolve conflict? Is by converting them into a regulation, because regulation will usually solve conflict or manage conflict so it doesn't spiral out of control. Okay, so this model regards IR primarily as a process of converting conflict into regulation. The transformation of latent conflict or internal conflict into manifest conflict, external conflict, may be expressed in a number of ways. One is through a hidden, organized individual way, through law and pre-moral. If you see that if there's conflict but they are not organized, usually you'll know that your company is having conflict. When you see that there's very low employee morale and high labor turnover and high absenteeism, you know there's something wrong, that your workers is not is having problem with the management. Okay, also in an overt constitutional form, on individual or collective basis, where they establish procedures and institutions, they have to go through the grievance procedure, consultation, and collective bargaining machinery. And another way is through industrial pressure, or which is industry action. These are all the mechanisms allowed by law, which can be used by the combination of workers, that is trade union, in order to achieve their objective. So the regulatory output of IR is generally seen to be as rules. So when you go through, there's an input conflict, you go through the machinery, the mechanism, the output is what are the rules in order to avoid this conflict. So in order to avoid strike, then we will have before a strike, you will have to apply to conduct a strike, and it has to be 90 days before, if according to the law in Malaysia, it has to be 90 days. Okay, it has to be how many days before you want to call a strike, you have to apply for it, how many for essential services is longer, and you have to do secret ballot. Now these are all procedures for a strike. So the rules will control this conflict, so that the conflict doesn't spiral out of control and then gets settled. Okay, so there are a number of bases on which the rules may be differentiated. One is it depends on the authorship of rules. Either it is unilateral, done by the management or employees only, or joint or imposed by the government. So grievance procedures are usually bilateral. It is done through collective bargaining bilaterally. Unilateral, it would be in terms of management prerogative, the six items that I have explained earlier. And finally, the joint or imposed by the government. This is done like in a tripartite manner. So substantive and procedural rules would be substantive rules define the rights and obligations of employee in the contract of service, which is termed in the Employment Act. And second, procedural rules define the conduct of relationship. Contract of service dia akan tengok rights, obligations of employee and employer dalam contract of service. For instance, terms and conditions of employment, how much is the salary, working hours, how many annual leave and all and whatnot. And procedural rules will look at all the procedures in a employment relationship, especially when there are trade unions, grievance, discipline, union recognition, consultation, collective bargaining. So whether the rules are determined within the organization or externally, external rules such as law and national agreements apply to more than one organization and place a limitation on the freedom of actions and decision making at the organizational level. Okay, so external rules like national agreements, what is done with the government, maybe by NUBE, National Union of Banking Employees. That one will affect all the banks in the industry at the national level. For instance, so if the government intervenes between the employers, banking employers and NUB, then they will have to follow, the employees will have to follow what the government has agreed to do, okay, in order to settle conflict between them. So internal rules are specific to the organisation, can easily be abandoned. Kalau yang di peringkat nasional, apa setuju antara employers and national unions, they will have to be applied. It's very difficult to abandon. But if it is done only at the organisational level, if the company feels it's not suitable, then they can just abandon the rules and the procedure and come up with another procedure. So it can be replaced according to situation. But at national level, very difficult. Sometimes it needs to even certain laws have to be amended to change this. So differing degrees of formality in determination and recording of the rules, ranging from informal and unwritten custom and practice to codification in formal written documents such as policies, procedures and agreements. Jadi formal, then everything you have to refer to it. If it is not written, then any parties can just not comply to them. So this will create more industrial conflict. Okay. And then the concepts related to IR, which there are fewer. If you can see, mainly the concept relevant would be fairness and equity, because we're talking about trade union and the management, so we'll make sure that there is fairness and equity. That's why trade union is allowed, okay, to determine their own terms and conditions of employment, so that they are not being oppressed, okay, because these are the among the workers that is very exposed to being oppressed, because they are unskilled and the salaries is starting salary is below 2,000. After that, if they work after 10 years, even if the salary is 10,000, they can still be a trade union member. Okay, and then equity, power and authority. Who has greater power? Who has the more authority? Even the trade union doesn't have the authority, but they have the more greater relative power, then they can maybe win the fight. And then individualism and collectivism. Individualism, when the company do not want trade union, then they will use the approach of individualism. They will promote like HRM. They would try to train and give everything the employees need, so that the employees do not need to join trade union. But if they want the power of collectivism, then trade union, then company will accept trade union and learn to deal with them, okay, because they believe in collectivism or cooperation. And then there's rights and responsibilities. Whose rights? Ini semua this is very common sense, okay? What are the rights of employers? What are the rights of the employees? This is given by the Industrial Relations Act 1950.